Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for attending. My name is Siwin Yi from the Yi Real Estate Network. Our company for the past 20 years, we direct out-of-state investors from different part of the country and some of them even overseas to buy out-of-state turnkey, remote, uh, oftentimes sight unseen properties because we have 8 markets that we work with throughout the country, and each market we have a team. It's a one-stop shop under one umbrella: property management, loan agents, in-house realtors, and so today's presentation is no different. And of course, we welcome our Buffalo turnkey provider, Mr. Caleb Kanazi. Hello, Caleb. Okay. And we've been working with his market for the past several years, and we have sent him over a lot of investors from our network to buy turnkey, remote, autopilot, cash flow properties using with good cash flows and all that stuff. So again, Buffalo Turnkey, they have a very unique situation. They've been in their market, Buffalo, Niagara Falls, for the past several decades. It's a family-owned business. They buy their own properties in their area. They know all the neighborhoods, and they buy the best locations possible. They rehab the property with their own money, with their contracting team, with their rehab team. They fix it up, make a turnkey. They place a tenant. And then they market those rent-ready properties, oftentimes tenant in place, and the properties all rehab, foundation, electrical systems, everything all cosmetically all done for the most part. And then all out-of-state investors have to do is go through some financing if they want, 20 to 25% down payment, or cash purchase, self-directed IRA, whatever, so they can build up their cash flow portfolio, diversify the investments, and the so-called Midwest market kind of products. So without further ado, the reason why I'm inviting Caleb Kanazi and his team to talk about, as you know, there's so much breaking news ever since the pandemic has started. We, from a high level, Caleb can talk about, record low inventory everywhere in the country, rent acceleration. Landlords are raising rent 20 to 30% in certain markets, and we even getting some appreciation scenarios in the Buffalo Niagara Falls. So you'd be surprised what's going on with this market. So Caleb, if you can, from a high level, briefly recap what has transpired within your market in terms of supply inventory, cash flow properties, the challenges involved, the rental increases, and what have you seen from your own market for the foreseeable future? So take it away, Caleb.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, it's been the same situation for a very long time where it's very low inventory and a lot of buyers and a lot of people just looking to buy properties. The properties to go very quickly right now. So it's a very hot real estate market still, and it hasn't slowed down at all. A lot of times it will slow down a little bit in the winter, especially here in Buffalo. I mean, we got a bit of snow outside right now, but it really just hasn't. We haven't really seen too much of a slowdown at all. In fact, it seems like to be basically the opposite, and people only expect prices to pretty much go up in the spring and May when things get warmer, and even more people are looking for houses. But it is still a crazy market as ever. COVID has not really affected that too much. Just recently too, in New York State, evictions are back on again. So we are going to be getting a lot more properties with that going on, because foreclosures are also going to be starting to happen more. It just started on the 15th of January, evictions. So we're going to have a lot more inventory available pretty soon, hopefully. But the prices and everything have still gone up quite a bit. So we for our management end, at least, we just recently sent out a bunch of basically to every single tenant to raise rent notices. On average, they're going up about 10%. which is probably not as much as it's increased. It's increased more than that probably, but we don't like to raise too much rent all at once on the tenant. So when we rent to a new tenant though, on a new property, then the rent is going to be probably 20% higher than it was just a little bit ago. However, just for all the tenants, we're just kind of doing more of a blanket raise rent of about 10%.
Good, good. It is very exciting to hear. So if I understand you correctly, Caleb, let me recap what I think you just said. For our existing investors that already purchased in your market, you are encouraging our investors to look into raising the rents. A lot of the tenants are doing month-to-month rental leases anyway, right? So that way, we, the investors, the owners, we have more flexibility to ask for a rental increase from the existing tenant. Am I right?
Right. So it's the notice depends on how long the tenant has been there. So if they've been there a year, you can send a 30-day notice to raise rent. Or if they've been there 1 to 2 years, it's a 60-day notice. Or if they've been there 2+ years, it's a 90-day notice to change that lease agreement for the raise rent. So it doesn't happen immediately, but in a few months, basically all the investors are going to see that the rent is going up. I believe management also sent out an email basically stating, "Hey, we're raising rents."
Good, good. If the tenant they refuse to pay higher rent, I mean, you feel comfortable in pursuing new tenants, and if so, if the new tenant, if you're gonna market for new tenant, you see more renters than out there that are available properties to rent, as we see in other part of the country. That's what we're seeing. What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So people, I mean, when it's just the reason we do 10% is because nobody really we've never had a complaint really about the raise rent for the 10% there. I mean, it's when you raise like a few $100, like a lot, that they're like, well, I can't necessarily afford this or something like that. So that's why we don't want them to do it too much all at once. So I don't think there's going to be any complaints on that end. Basically, people who are not paying already are the only ones who wouldn't continue to pay, is what I would assume. But evictions are back on, so you just evict that tenant, and I probably we don't even advertise. We'll just because I'll have my phone number associated with the management company. And I'll probably get at least 2 calls a day for people just asking if we have any apartments available for rent. It's a crazy market, and when we do put them up for rent on like Zillow and Craigslist, we get at least like 30 calls right, like immediately within the first week, and they rent out very, very quickly.
So that's very good to hear. So what I hear saying for the long term, for the foreseeable future, when a potential investor targeting your market potentially from their pro forma, from their cash flow analysis, is reasonable to predict the vacancy factor would be way less than 5%. Is that a good projection to have?
The volume actually kind of went down a little bit. What was that? The question again?
Yeah. So given that there are more renters than there are available houses to rent in many areas of the country, I assume Buffalo, Niagara Falls are no different.
Yes. Yeah.
So you should have no problem getting the tenant in because for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just not enough house. People are just always looking for housing. It seems like I'm not sure how there's just so many people looking for it, but we get calls all the time for people just looking to rent, and there's a lot of qualified people and people that we would rent to normally. But like you just get the best of the best essentially when you get these applications. You just get to pick and choose which tenant you want, so you're able to really get a good tenant in there.
Yeah, so the comfort level is that the investor owner that are buying in your market, they your in-house property management will pre-screen the best possible tenant. I mean, you will take your time. If you have 10 applicants, 20 applicants, whatever, you pick the best one, the one with the best credit, the one with the most stable jobs. So you want a long-term tenant to be placed so the investors can can sleep comfortably, knowing that they're getting cash flow, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's whenever we rent a property. Not every property we sell have we rented the tenants. Sometimes when we buy a property, it already has a good paying tenant in there, and we're not just going to kick them out just to get a new tenant. So if they're already paying and getting in there, then that's good with us. A lot of times we'll even buy property, a tenant's been there like 10 plus years and they've always paid, and that's always good to have too.
All right, so let's talk about the foreclosure market. Now the eviction moratorium is over in New York State, which is good because the landlord can charge more rent now because for the past 2 years, at least in New York State, they were unable to do so. So in other part of the country, like for example, in California, the eviction moratorium is over. Now the landlords are kind of getting a little bit greedy, which is nothing wrong. They're charging like 30% higher rent to make up for lost rent that occurred in the past 2 years. So, yeah. So yeah. So in terms of so tell me, you have any kind of, so your team is right now or looking into some foreclosure properties in your local market. Tell me more about that. Anything exciting for investors to learn about in the next few months once you're able to scoop up some foreclosure properties? What is your process going to be like?
Yeah, so we right now we have 23, actually 24 properties under contract that we're buying, and a lot of those future properties you'll see on the list. A lot of the reasons they're future is because they have a bad tenant in there and we need to evict them and then do work to it. And now that we're going to be able to evict them, a lot of those properties are going to finally be able to be ready, because like some of those have been just future for a long time because the tenant's just been sitting in there and we can't do anything about it. But now we're going to be able to get a lot more inventory and some good properties out there, because I don't know if you've seen the list recently, but there's not that much available right now. But hopefully pretty soon we'll be getting a lot more.
That's right, Caleb. I've been reluctantly complaining. It's probably sent me the monthly inventory listings for the past 18 months. I say, where's all the inventory? What's going on? Now I know why. So moving forward, the investors are gonna enter your market through your system. So we expect more value add. We expect better return on our investment because your team is on the ground buying those foreclosed properties at a very, very deep discount, fix it up with your own money, with your own materials and all that stuff, and you make it a turnkey. So in the foreseeable future, later this year, are you saying that there are even more return opportunity for investors that buying your off-market properties, you think?
Yeah, so I think there'll be more properties essentially for sale, hopefully to be ready. So we have a lot of people asking for properties. It seems on our list that the higher return on investment properties go the quickest there. I mean, might be natural that way, but so if we're able to get a lot more of those, hopefully higher return investments, then people will have those available.
Okay, so a few more questions, then we pretty much done. So let's project 3 to 5 years. Once an investor buy your off-market properties, what are their expectations in terms of maintenance and rehabs and replacing the roof or replacing the boiler, replacing the electrical system? What are the expectation? I mean, what are the, for example, what percentage of on an annual basis should an investor project how much will be factored in on the maintenance, upkeep, unforeseen expenses, replacing this and that? What are so they know, because your market, you have older properties, and some investors, they are reluctant to buy, thinking they can run into a bad tenant or a lot of evictions, or all the cash flow will be eaten up by all the maintenance issues, maybe some. So can you, like, from a transparency point of view, what makes your property, your type of system different than what a typical investor might think about the kind of properties that are being sold in your types of market?
It's hard to say precisely because it's just going to depend on the property itself. Because we're doing various things on different properties. But when you mentioned just like 3 or 4 years, they shouldn't have anything major to do. Normally, if we think a roof is going to go in like 3 or 4 years, or furnace or hot water tank, because we could do that so much cheaper than the average person. Because we have our own employees. We're Home Depot in this area. We're Home Depot's second largest customer. We buy like millions of dollars in supplies from them. So we're really getting really cheap on everything to get it done. So for us to do that, it's really not that big of a deal compared to the average person. So generally, we're trying to just we're just replacing hot water tanks, furnaces, the roof if we think it's going to go within like 5 years. But if it's like going to go maybe. And a lot of properties will have brand new furnaces, hot water tanks, but not every single property. It kind of just depends on that factor. And not every single property are we rehabbing as well. Some properties we'll buy, they already have a tenant in there, so we're not going to kick the tenant out just to do a rehab on the property. So those you might expect to have a little bit more maintenance than a property, say, that we just freshly rehabbed. But then generally, not freshly rehab property, you're going to get a little bit higher of a return on investment too to make up for that. But what a lot of our investors do, they'll factor in about 10 to 15% of the rents for maintenance. But I mean, it really just kind of depends on the property. And a lot of your clients, at least, they are getting property inspections, which is I encourage people to do, because we're fine with doing any repairs that the inspector finds pretty much. So that is just like kind of preventative, and he'll even state like preventative maintenance sort of thing. So hopefully we can limit any maintenance or anything that comes up later on, and kind of help out with that return on investment to make sure it's still high and good there.
Okay, so what I hear you saying, Caleb, as we conclude our presentation, is that out-of-state investors, they should not have major concerns about buying in your market, because you guys have a built-in system. You only work with your own properties within your portfolio. It's off market. It's not in a multiple listing service. So because you guys been doing it for so long, you guys have a good reputation for many years. You've been working with out-of-state investors for so long. You get repeat business. People always come back to your market, buy more and more because they have good experience. So we're getting a lot of cash flow initially anyway. That's the value add in low price. I mean, $60,000 property, we get financing 20% down. It's only like less than 20 grand out of pocket, and our investor will get 5%, 6% cap rate on a cash flow, cash on cash return of like 15 to 20% on a financing transaction. So all the numeric metrics indicates that your market is a very good investment. I mean, where else can you commit to 15 to 20 grand of down payment plus closing costs and achieve the return that they have been achieving in your products, in your market? Is my recap pretty much?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent recap there. And one thing I'd just like to add is, like, also, if you're going like thinking 3 or 4 years down the road too, properties historically have been increasing in price. For instance, we've actually just recently bought a couple properties back from people we sold the house to for like 20, 30 grand more than what we sold them for too. Like, because properties just keep going up in value. We only sold them a couple of years ago too. So people have made a good chunk of money that way too. There's a good way to, real estate's really a nice way to invest right now.
That's right. I totally agree. I mean, of course, I promote your team and your market quite consistently because I believe in it. You guys have been doing a great job. Your whole team has done a great job. For the most part, I mean, nobody's perfect, but I will caution investors that don't look at the picture of the house. It's not the best looking house, but hey, as long as give you the return that you want, that investor expect, that what more can you ask for, right? So, and so it's very enjoyable working with you, Caleb. You've been consulting with our members very consistently. You guys been providing great service, and looking forward to continue working with you and your team in Buffalo, Niagara Falls, so our investors can achieve cash flow, high cash flow, even appreciation down the road, and turnkey, just remote control, autopilot investment methodology. So with that said, thank you for your time, Caleb Kanazi from Buffalo Turnkey, and thank you so much everybody for listening. Have a nice day. This is Siwei Yi from the Yi Listen Network. I'll talk to you next time. Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Andy.